The afternoon began like many others in the Harper house. Quiet and ordinary, but with something unseen moving beneath the surface. The sky outside was gray, the kind common in Oregon, and the house carried the soft sounds of daily life footsteps. The hum of the heater, the faint clatter of wooden blocks hitting the floor. Emily Harper stood in the kitchen, rinsing a coffee mug she had forgotten earlier. She was 38, with tired eyes and a calm face shaped by years of responsibility. Life had taught her to stay steady, even when her heart felt unsteady inside. Since marrying Daniel 2 years ago, she had learned to live between gratitude and fear, grateful for stability, fearful of losing it. From the living room came laughter. Emily paused. She didn't smile right away. Laughter had become rare in the house after her first husband passed away years earlier. For a long time, the home had been filled with silence and careful steps. When Daniel entered their lives, he brought warmth, but even warmth had to be earned slowly. She leaned slightly against the counter and listened. Daniel was sitting on the floor with Noah, Emily's 10-year-old son. Noah had been quiet for years, thoughtful, often distant. Losing his father at such a young age had changed him. He had learned not to expect too much from adults. When Emily remarried, Noah accepted Daniel politely, but with caution. Daniel never pushed. He never tried to act like someone he wasn't. He showed up, helped with schoolwork, fixed things around the house, listened more than he spoke. Emily noticed everything, even when she pretended not to, in the living room. A wooden tower collapsed again, blocks spreading across the rug. "No way," Daniel laughed. "That one almost worked." Noah laughed too, louder this time. "You've leaned it too much." "That's because you distracted me," Daniel replied. Emily felt something warm and sharp at the same time. She stayed still, watching through the doorway. They tried again. The tower rose higher. Noah carefully placed the last block on top. He leaned back, proud it stood. "Yes," Noah said. Jumping up, Daniel raised his hand for a high five. Noah slapped it without thinking. Then, without planning the words, Noah looked at Daniel and said, "Thanks for staying, Dad." The room froze. The word was soft, but it carried weight. Emily felt her chest tighten. Daniel's smile faded into surprise. Noah's face changed as soon as he realized what he had said. I mean, Daniel." Noah corrected quickly, his voice smaller. "Now, sorry." Daniel didn't move for a moment. His eyes were fixed on Noah. Not shocked, not angry, just full of something deep and unreadable. He took a slow breath and spoke carefully. "It's okay," he said. "You didn't do anything wrong." Noah nodded, but he looked down at the blocks, suddenly quiet. Emily turned away. She didn't want them to see her face. Tears came without warning. She walked back into the kitchen, gripping the counter until her breathing slowed. That one word had opened something she had kept tightly closed. For years, Emily had carried guilt. Guilt for surviving when her first husband didn't. Guilt for moving forward. Guilt for letting another man into her son's life. She had promised herself she would protect Noah from disappointment at all costs. She had also protected herself. That afternoon, the house felt different. The air felt heavy, like something important had been spoken into existence. Dinner passed quietly. Noah ate without much talking. Daniel tried to keep things normal, asking about school, making small jokes. Emily answered when needed, but her mind was elsewhere. She watched Daniel closely. She watched Noah even more. After dinner, Noah went to his room early, saying he was tired. Emily wanted to follow him, but she didn't. She needed time to think. Later, she sat alone at the dining table. In front of her was an old photo frame she hadn't moved in years. It showed her first wedding day. She didn't look at it often. Tonight she did. Daniel came in and sat across from her. The silence between them was thick, but not uncomfortable. "I didn't expect that," Daniel said quietly. Emily nodded. "Neither did I." He leaned back slightly. "Hope I didn't confuse him." "You didn't," Emily said. You've never confused him. Daniel looked at his hands. I try to be careful. I don't want to take a place that isn't mine. Emily swallowed. You didn't take anything, she said. You earned something. Daniel looked up at her then. His eyes were honest, open. I care about him, he said. I care about you. I just don't want to hurt either of you. That was when Emily realized something important. Daniel wasn't afraid of responsibility. He was afraid of loss. Just like her. She wanted to tell him everything, how lonely she had felt after her first husband died. Oh, she had built walls without noticing. Oh, she sometimes held back love because she feared it could be taken away. Instead, she said it mattered to him. Daniel nodded slowly. It mattered to me too. Their eyes met, and for a moment, the years between them faded. They weren't just a married couple sharing a house. They were two people standing at the edge of a deeper connection. Emily stood up. I'm going to check on Noah. Daniel didn't stop her. The hallway was dark except for a small nightlight. Near Noah's room, she heard soft sounds sniffing, quiet breath that wasn't steady. She knocked gently and opened the door. Noah lay on his bed, facing the wall. He didn't turn around. Emily sat beside him. Hey, she said softly. I'm fine, Noah replied, too quickly. She waited. Silence had taught her patience. I didn't mean to say it, Noah finally said. I wasn't thinking. Emily brushed his hair gently. You don't need to be sorry. But what if he gets mad? Noah asked. Or leaves? That word leaves cut deep. Emily took a breath. Daniel isn't angry, she said. And he's not leaving. Noah turned slightly. How do you know? Because I don't know how I would survive if he did, she thought. He cares, she said instead. He's just careful like you. Noah nodded, but his eyes were wet. I miss my real dad, he whispered. Emily felt the familiar ache rise again. I know, she said. Missing him doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. After Noah fell asleep, Emily stayed for a few minutes, watching him breathe. Then she went outside. Daniel stood in the backyard, hands in his jacket pockets, looking up at the cloudy sky. The air was cold. I heard him crying, he said. Emily nodded. He's scared. So am I, Daniel admitted. She stepped closer. Of what? Of failing him, Daniel said. Of failing you. Emily looked at him. You're already here, she said. That matters more than you think. Daniel turned to her. Do you ever feel like you're holding back? The question surprised her. Yes, she answered. Honestly, me too, he said. But today made me realize something. I don't want to keep standing at a distance. Emily felt tears rise again. But this time they didn't fall. The house behind them was quiet. Inside, a child slept, holding on to hope without fully understanding it. Emily and Daniel stood together in the cold, knowing that something had shifted. A single word had opened a door neither of them could close again, and while they didn't know what would come next, they knew one thing for certain: their family was changing, and there was no turning back. Emily woke to the soft gray light of morning spilling into the Harper house. The quiet was different, now less empty, almost expectant. Noah had already left for school, but she sensed a new tension lingering in the air, the kind that follows a conversation too big to be fully spoken. She carried her mug of coffee into the kitchen, where Daniel was already making breakfast, humming softly. His presence felt steady, comforting, but she knew both of them were walking on new ground. Neither had fully mapped out yet. Noah had not mentioned the previous afternoon's confession, the way he had called Daniel Dad, but Emily could see the worry in his eyes when he left. It weighed on her too. She didn't want to push, but she also didn't want him to feel like anything had to be hidden. Families were delicate, especially ones built slowly over loss and second chances. After breakfast, Emily found Daniel in the backyard again. He was stacking firewood with quiet care, each piece deliberate, his mind clearly elsewhere. She leaned against the doorframe, watching him for a moment. Remembering the way he had admitted his fear the night before, "I talked to him last night," she said softly. Daniel didn't look up immediately. "Yeah," Emily nodded. "He's scared? I think he feels like he's testing you." He paused and set a log down carefully. "Maybe I am testing myself too," he admitted. "I'm afraid that if I show too much, I'll ruin it." Emily crossed the yard slowly, stopping near him. "Daniel, you haven't ruined anything. You're here. That matters more than words." He finally looked at her, and she saw the honest vulnerability in his eyes. He wasn't the perfect stepdad, nor the man who had all the answers. He was simply trying, and that was enough for both her and Noah. Later that morning, when Noah returned from school, Emily noticed the quiet hesitation in his steps as he entered the house. Daniel was in the living room, reading quietly on the couch. Noah paused, unsure how to approach him. Emily watched from the hallway. "Hey, Noah," Daniel said gently, closing the book. "How was school?" "Good," Noah muttered, still not meeting his stepfather's eyes. Daniel smiled faintly, then nodded. "Listen, about yesterday, I want you to know something. Don't have to call me Dad if it feels weird. You can call me whatever you like. What matters is that I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." Noah froze. His small hands clenched the hem of his shirt. Then, in a quiet, almost shy voice, he said, I think I like having you here." Daniel's face softened. He opened his arms slightly. "You mean, like family?" Noah nodded. Slowly, hesitantly, he stepped forward and hugged Daniel. It wasn't just a hug. It was a bridge, a silent agreement that they would try to move forward together, carefully but fully. Emily felt tears prick her eyes as she watched the moment unfold. She didn't move. She didn't want to interrupt. She let the two most important people in her life find each other on their own terms. That evening, the house felt different. The air was warmer, the spaces between them smaller. Daniel cooked dinner with Noah beside him, stirring sauce and laughing. At a small spill, Emily joined them at the table, noting the ease in the room. It was not perfect, but it was real. Real enough to start building trust and love. After dinner, Noah retreated to his room, and Emily found herself in the living room with Daniel. The quiet stretched between them, full of unspoken thoughts. She sat down beside him on the couch, her fingers brushing lightly against his. "You know," she said softly, what we have, no, it's fragile. But it's good fragile, not bad fragile." Daniel turned toward her. "I've never felt like this before," he admitted. "Not like this." I was scared, but seeing him trust MIT makes me want to try. Harder for him, for you, for us." Emily felt her chest tighten with an emotion she hadn't allowed herself to feel in a long time. Hope, real hope, not the kind wrapped in caution or fear. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Daniel rested, his hand over hers. The gesture was quiet, simple, but it carried years of longing, regret, and possibility all at once. Over the next few weeks, their home transformed slowly but surely. Mornings began with Noah sitting at the kitchen counter, laughing at Daniel's attempts at pancakes. Homework was no longer a chore, but a shared activity, with Daniel helping patiently while Emily observed quietly. Evenings were spent on the couch, reading, talking, sometimes just sitting together without words. Emily noticed changes in herself as well. She had spent years shielding her heart, convinced that letting someone in fully would invite loss again. But Daniel's patience and sincerity were softening her defenses. She caught herself smiling at him when he wasn't looking, feeling a flutter she hadn't expected. It wasn't reckless, but it was alive. One rainy evening, Emily found herself alone in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner. Daniel was in Noah's room, helping him with a school project. She paused, thinking about the last year of the loss, the fear, the slow rebuilding of trust. And she realized something. She had been waiting for a moment like this, when love didn't feel like a risk, but a choice. Daniel walked back into the kitchen quietly. "You're still up," he said softly. Emily nodded. "Couldn't sleep." she admitted. He came closer, his hand brushing hers again. "I've been thinking," he said, "about us, about Noah, about how fragile everything can feel." Emily met his eyes. And I don't want to hold back anymore. I want to be part of this family, fully. No reservations. Emily felt a lump in her throat. "I've been afraid to," she said. "Afraid to let anyone in, afraid of hurting him, or being hurt myself." Daniel smiled gently. "Then let's stop being afraid." The next day they took Noah to the park. It was a sunny Saturday, and the air smelled like early spring. Daniel pushed him on the swings while Emily watched, her heart full. Noah laughed without restraint, trusting Daniel completely now. He ran to Emily and Daniel together, tripping slightly, and they both caught him at the same time. That evening, as they drove home, Emily noticed Noah leaning his head against the window, quiet but content. She glanced at Daniel and felt a wave of gratitude and something deeper, love that had been tested, questioned, and now accepted back home. Emily lingered by the doorway of Noah's room. Daniel had tucked him in, reading softly until his eyes grew heavy. The moment was quiet, intimate in the way that families become when trust is earned rather than demanded. After Noah fell asleep, Emily and Daniel sat together in the living room. Again, Daniel reached out, taking her hand, and she felt the warmth of his presence. "I think this us. It can work," he said. Emily nodded, leaning closer. "I think it already is working," she replied. They stayed together that night, sitting quietly, knowing that the past pain, fear, loss had shaped them, but it no longer defined them. Noah's small act of honesty had started something bigger than words could describe. It had opened the door for love, trust, and a sense of belonging that neither Emily nor Daniel had dared to hope for. In the days that followed, routines took on new meaning. Family dinners became moments of laughter and conversation. Daniel stayed later when he could, not out of obligation but desire. Noah began to show small signs of comfort, telling stories about school, asking questions, and even seeking advice. Emily saw a sparkle returning to him, spark that she had feared lost forever. The house itself seemed to breathe differently. Rooms that had felt heavy with memories and caution now held warmth. Windows caught the sunlight in new ways. Even the small hallway that had witnessed tears and confessions now felt like a path toward something better. One evening, Daniel cooked dinner while Emily set the table. Noah came home early from soccer, glowing from the practice. "Can we do a movie tonight?" he asked. "Absolutely," Daniel said, ruffling his hair. "Your choice." Emily watched them together and realized the truth she had been avoiding. Love wasn't a sudden storm. It was a slow unfolding built from moments of honesty, trust, and simple presence. Noah's reaction had been the spark, but it was Daniel's care and patience that kept the flame alive later. As Emily and Daniel sat together after Noah had fallen asleep, the quiet was full of promises. Neither needed to speak much. The room itself held the unspoken understanding. They were a family, not perfect, but complete in the ways that mattered most. Emily rested her head on Daniel's shoulder. He held her hand. It's the past year of fear. Uncertainty and tentative steps had led them here. A stepson's words had reminded them both of what mattered, and in that reminder, everything changed. Love, trust, and patience, these were the quiet miracles shaping their home. And as the night deepened around them, Emily realized that sometimes the simplest truth could transform lives. Families were not only born, they were chosen, moment by moment, with courage and heart. And tonight, with Daniel beside her and Noah safe in his room, she knew they had chosen each other.